There is a subtle trap hiding behind the noble idea of self-improvement. It whispers promises of growth, mastery, and transformation. You start reading the books, you attend the seminars, you tweak your morning routines, you chase better habits, higher productivity, more focus, more confidence. At first, it feels empowering. You're leveling up, becoming someone new. You feel superior to who you were yesterday. But somewhere along the way, without even realizing it, the line between growth and escape starts to blur. You are no longer improving yourself because you love life. You are improving yourself because you hate who you are now. And no matter how much you achieve, there is always something broken inside that needs fixing. Carl Jung warned us about this trap, the endless project of self-perfection. He knew that what we call growth can easily become another form of self-rejection. When you chase an idealized version of yourself, you implicitly declare war on who you already are. You split yourself into the flawed one and the future perfect one. And without noticing, you become a stranger to yourself. Because deep down, the constant need to improve sends a dangerous message to your unconscious. You are not enough. You are not worthy as you are. You must earn your right to exist. You become addicted to fixing, upgrading, enhancing, never arriving. The bar keeps moving. You are trapped in an endless treadmill of self-optimization, mistaking motion for meaning. But here's the deeper tragedy. Sometimes, the frantic pursuit of self-betterment isn't about growing at all. It's about running from shame, from pain, from the unbearable stillness of just being. You convince yourself you're making progress, but all you're doing is polishing the same fears, dressing them up in new goals, new visions, new affirmations. Real growth doesn't scream for attention. It doesn't need gold stars or social media proof. It's quieter, deeper, often invisible. It feels less like climbing a mountain and more like sinking into your own depths. Are you truly evolving, or just desperately trying not to face yourself? Modern culture has mastered the art of exploiting your insecurity, and it disguises it as empowerment. Scroll through social media, and you'll be bombarded by the gospel of constant self-betterment. 5 ways to be more productive. 10 hacks to level up your mindset. Morning routines of billionaires. Productivity porn. Optimization fetish. Everywhere you look, the message is the same. You are not enough as you are. You need to hustle harder, meditate longer, wake up earlier, work out more intensely, consume more content, upgrade faster. But what nobody tells you is that underneath this culture of relentless optimization, there is a profound fear, the fear of stillness. Stillness terrifies a mind trained to equate doing with being worthy. If you are not improving, if you are not progressing, if you are not producing, you start feeling invisible, irrelevant, lost. You start fearing that your existence has no meaning unless it is justified by constant achievement. This isn't growth. This is spiritual exhaustion disguised as ambition. Carl Jung knew that an unlived life creates neurosis. When you trade your authentic being for the endless project of self-improvement, you are not living. You are managing yourself like a product. You are turning your soul into a brand. You are outsourcing your self-worth to an endless to-do list. And here's the painful truth. You will never catch up. There will always be another book to read, another seminar to attend, another guru to follow. There will always be a better morning routine, a stricter diet, a new productivity hack. The finish line keeps moving, and the race never ends. The question is not whether you are improving fast enough. The real question is, why are you running at all? Are you chasing growth? Or are you just trying to outrun the feeling of inadequacy that has been implanted in you by a society that profits from your dissatisfaction? Self-improvement becomes dangerous when it shifts from being a journey of discovery into a compulsion to fix what was never broken. Instead of cultivating depth, we chase upgrades. Instead of embracing our humanity, we try to edit it. We treat ourselves like malfunctioning systems, glitchy software in need of constant patches, productivity updates, mindset hacks, always fixing, never arriving. But the truth is simple and radical. You are not a project. You are a person. When growth is driven by self-hatred, it's no longer growth. It becomes self-erasure. You don't evolve, you amputate. You surgically remove the parts of yourself you've deemed unworthy, your anger, your softness, your spontaneity, believing they're flaws. But what remains is a sanitized, polished version of you. Efficient, presentable, perfect, and empty. Carl Jung warned us, what we disown doesn't disappear. It metastasizes. The rejected pieces of our psyche don't vanish into thin air. They fester in the dark. They show up through compulsions, addictions, outbursts of rage, chronic shame. You can optimize every hour of your day, build the most pristine morning routine, follow every self-help system out there. But if you silently loathe the one following that calendar, you're not improving. You're hiding. Real growth doesn't feel like conquest. It doesn't look like endless forward motion. It feels like stillness. It feels like returning to the version of you before the world convinced you that who you are is not enough, before you measured your worth by your achievements, before your soul was rebranded as a product. True self-improvement isn't about adding more. It's about shedding the illusions, unlearning the false narratives. It's not about fixing, it's about remembering. The path is rarely linear. It's messy, full of spirals, full of regression, full of quiet seasons where nothing seems to happen, yet everything is shifting beneath the surface. Modern culture wants you to hustle forever, to stay restless, hungry, discontent, because your anxiety is profitable. But life doesn't demand constant self-optimization. It demands presence. It demands honesty. It demands courage. The courage to be unfinished, imperfect, and still worthy. Stillness terrifies us, not because it is empty, but because it reveals everything. When the noise fades, when the constant movement stops, when the striving to become falls silent, we are left with what we've been avoiding all along: ourselves. Raw, unfinished, untitled, exposed. And in that silence, panic rises. We've been conditioned to equate motion with meaning, to believe that if we are not upgrading, improving, advancing, we are failing, falling behind, wasting potential, losing our value. But this belief isn't truth. It's marketing. It's a manufactured urgency, carefully designed by a system that thrives on your perpetual dissatisfaction. A still mind doesn't generate profit. A content heart doesn't buy solutions. The modern world doesn't want you to pause. It wants you to chase, to strive, to hunger. Because if you ever stopped, really stopped, and sat with your being, you might remember that you are already whole. Stillness is not stagnation, it's confrontation. It's the uncomfortable, sacred act of sitting with what is, without performance, without production, without pretense. It's choosing to witness yourself rather than fix yourself. To feel without editing. To ask the dangerous question, if I stopped chasing change, who would I become? Most people never find out. They run endlessly on the treadmill of becoming. They mistake exhaustion for progress and achievement for healing. They sprint away from themselves, only to circle back to the same emptiness. Carl Jung warned that people will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own soul. They will work themselves to death, fill their schedules with noise, entertain themselves into numbness, all to escape that one quiet moment, when all that remains is their own reflection. But that moment is where the real transformation begins. Not in another milestone, not in another upgrade, but in the terrifying beauty of acceptance. When you stop viewing yourself as a problem to be solved and begin to see yourself as a mystery to be honored. You are not a checklist. You are not a brand. You are not a work in progress. You are a paradox, a pulse, a becoming. And real growth whispers what hustle never will. You were enough. You still are, even in your stillness, especially there. There's a strange kind of freedom in accepting that you are a work in progress. It's not defeat. It's not laziness. It's not resignation. It's something softer, something wiser, an invitation to live. When you stop obsessing over optimization, something shifts. You start noticing again. You feel the sun differently on your skin. You hear laughter with less armor. You realize peace isn't the prize waiting at the end of your to-do list. It's something quieter, something you let in right now as you are. You begin to understand that life is not a ladder, not a hierarchy to climb, not a series of checkpoints toward some mythical best version of yourself. It's a field, a wilderness, messy, unpredictable, winding, full of detours, hidden paths, and moments that make no sense until they do. And real growth? It doesn't always feel like power. Sometimes it feels like softening, like sitting down in the mud beside the version of you that you've spent years trying to outrun. Because the truth is, the relentless pursuit of self-improvement often becomes a spiritual bypass, a distraction disguised as discipline. It's easier to download a new app than to sit alone with your grief. Easier to chase a new routine than to name the ache in your chest. Easier to strive than to ask, what exactly am I running from? Maybe you're not broken. Maybe you're just exhausted from the battle inside you. Maybe you don't need to transform. Maybe you need to come home. Schopenhauer once said, "A man can do what he wills, but he cannot will what he wills." You can chase all the goals, read all the books, conquer every mountain, but you cannot escape your nature. You cannot hustle your way into peace, because real transformation doesn't come through force. It comes through surrender, through softness, through the terrifying act of embracing what is. When you stop demanding that life fit into a clean narrative, you create space for truth, for mystery, for authenticity. The parts of you that are wild, rough, raw, they are not errors in your design. They are essential. They are sacred. You weren't meant to be flawless. You were meant to be whole. And wholeness isn't clean. It isn't linear. It isn't easy. It's chaotic, contradictory, alive, just like you. When you reject the idea that you must constantly upgrade yourself to be worthy, something radical happens. You start living, not later, not when you're finally enough, but now. You stop treating every moment as a stepping stone to some distant version of yourself. You stop measuring your worth by how much you can produce, perfect, or prove. You begin to show up as you are. With your mess, your contradictions, your tired eyes, your raw edges, your flawed beauty, and something strange happens. In showing up fully, you give others silent permission to do the same. You become a mirror of what's possible without perfection. Imagine a world where worthiness wasn't a prize you earned through exhaustion, but a truth you carried from birth. A world where you're allowed to be uncertain, to fall apart, to not know, and yet still belong. That's not regression. That's evolution. True growth doesn't come from becoming flawless. It comes from reclaiming your humanity, from peeling yourself away from a system that treats you like a constant project. It's choosing presence over performance, connection over comparison, being over becoming. The self-improvement industry survives on one core fear: that you're not enough. But as Carl Jung once said, the privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. Not who you're trained to be, not who you're pressured to be, but the you that's been buried beneath layers of shame, fear, and performance. The paradox is this: only when you stop obsessively trying to fix yourself, real transformation begins. Because maybe you were never broken. Maybe you were just buried. You don't need to earn your place in this world. You already have it. You don't need to outrun your flaws. You need to listen to them. You don't need to build a new self. You need to uncover the self that remembers. The trap of endless self-improvement feels like hope, but often becomes a treadmill you never escape. A loop of fixing, optimizing, upgrading, and forgetting to live. Real freedom begins the moment you whisper to yourself, "I'm willing to be who I am," fully, wildly, unapologetically. And from there, everything shifts. Growth still matters. Dreams still matter. But not from fear, from love, from truth, from something far deeper. This isn't about rejecting ambition. It's about changing the source. From fear to wholeness, from lack to enoughness, from running to returning. Because maybe the real question was never, how can I be better? Maybe the real question is, what if I was never broken to begin with?